Okay, so you want to buy an NFL team, sign the players, win the Super Bowl, maybe fire a coach or two. But here's the part nobody tells you. You can finish last place in your division for 10 years in a row, never win a single playoff game, and still make $500 million. And the guy who buys the worst team in the league today will probably sell it for 3 times the price in 15 years. The NFL is the only business on earth where failure is still a fantastic investment. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how that's possible. How the league is actually structured. Why 32 owners share money like a socialist cooperative but become billionaires doing it. And why buying an NFL team has almost nothing to do with football. Let's start with the price tag. The cheapest NFL franchise right now is worth approximately $3.1 billion. That's the low end. The Carolina Panthers sold for $2.275 billion in 2018. That same franchise is now valued at over $348 billion. The Buffalo Bills sold for $1.4 billion in 2022, a record at the time. Today, that number looks like a bargain. The most valuable franchise in American sports history is the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones bought them in 1989 for $140 million. As of 2024, Forbes values the Cowboys at $10.1 billion. That's not a typo. $140 million turned into $10 billion in 35 years. No hedge fund on earth has matched that return. And at the very top, if you want one of the flagship franchises, the Chiefs, the Patriots, the 49ers, you're not getting change back from $6 billion. But before you write the check, there's a problem. You can't just buy an NFL team the way you buy a house or a company. The league has a gate, and not everyone gets through it. Here's how ownership actually works. The NFL is a private club of 32 members. To join, you don't just need money, you need the existing members to vote you in. Specifically, 24 of the 32 current owners have to approve you. They're not just checking your bank account, they're checking your background, your other business interests, your reputation. The NFL's image is the product, and they will not let someone through the door who might damage it. For decades, the league also had a rule that no publicly traded company could own a franchise. Every team had to be privately held. The Green Bay Packers are the only exception in all of American professional sports. A publicly owned, non-profit community organization that's been that way since 1923 and will never be sold. Every other team is private. In 2024, the NFL finally changed its rules to allow private equity firms to take minority stakes of up to 10%. That's how desperate some owners are getting for liquidity. But control still has to sit with a single individual owning at least 30%. And even after all of that, there's the waiting. Teams rarely go up for sale. Sometimes you spend years in line before the right franchise becomes available. This is not a business you enter on a schedule. Now let's talk about why this asset keeps going up in value, regardless of what happens on the field. The answer is the media deal, and it is unlike anything else in sports. In 2023, the NFL's broadcast contracts totaled $1,113 billion over 11 years. CBS, NBC, Fox, ESPN, Amazon Prime, all of them paying for the right to air NFL games. Divided across 32 teams and roughly 17 regular season games per year, each franchise receives approximately $340 to $370 million annually just from television. Before a single ticket is sold, before a single jersey leaves the store, the check arrives whether your team wins or loses. This is the core structural advantage of owning an NFL franchise. The revenue-sharing model means every team, the Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns alike, splits national TV money equally. Herbert Hoover couldn't have designed a better redistribution system. And it's the reason why even the worst-performing franchise in the league is still a money machine. On top of the national money, teams keep their local revenue. Ticket sales, stadium naming rights, local sponsorships, concessions, parking. A franchise in a big market like New York or Los Angeles generates significantly more locally than one in Jacksonville. But even Jacksonville is getting that $350 million TV check every year. Meet Stan Kroenke, real estate developer from Columbia, Missouri. He married into the Walton family, Walmart money, but he built his sports empire himself. In 2010, he bought a controlling stake in the St. Louis Rams for around $750 million. In 2006, he moved the franchise to Los Angeles over massive fan protest and renamed them the Rams. He then built SoFi Stadium in Inglewood for $5.5 billion, the most expensive stadium ever constructed. The Rams are now valued at $6.9 billion. Kroenke also owns Arsenal, the Colorado Avalanche, the Denver Nuggets, and the Colorado Rapids. His net worth is over $14 billion. He didn't make that money winning football games. He made it understanding that NFL franchises are real estate that breathes. Now let's actually look at how the money flows, because the income statement of an NFL team surprises most people. Take a mid-tier franchise generating around $550 million in annual revenue. Of that, roughly $350 million comes from the national TV deal and league-wide revenue sharing. The remaining $200 million comes from local sources: tickets, sponsorships, stadium deals. On the expense side, the single biggest line item is player salaries. The NFL uses a hard salary cap, meaning every team spends almost exactly the same amount on players. In 2024, the cap was $255.4 million. Every team, rich or poor, is spending within a few percentage points of the same number on its roster. This is intentional. It creates competitive balance and prevents billionaire owners from simply buying championships. It also means your biggest cost is fixed and predictable, which is unusual for any business at this scale. Add in coaching staff, front office, facilities, travel, and marketing, and a typical franchise spends around $380 to $420 million per year. Net operating profit sits somewhere between $100 and $180 million annually for a mid-market team. For a top-market franchise, it can be significantly higher. But the operating profit is almost beside the point. NFL owners don't buy teams for the cash flow. They buy them for the appreciation. Every decade, franchise values roughly double, sometimes triple. The business case isn't income, it's asset accumulation. Now here's where it gets complicated, because not everyone who buys into this system wins. In 2012, a former hedge fund manager named Dan Snyder was not having a great year. Snyder had bought the Washington franchise, then called the Redskins, in 1999 for $800 million. It was the most expensive sports franchise sale in history at the time. He spent the next 2 decades generating controversy. Accusations of a toxic workplace culture, harassment allegations against team employees, congressional investigations, and a name change forced by sponsors. In 2022, the NFL fined the franchise $10 million. The team was rebranded as the Commanders. By early 2023, the NFL's other owners were reportedly pushing Snyder toward the exit. In July 2023, he sold the Commanders to a group led by Magic Johnson and Josh Harris for $605 billion, still the largest transaction in sports history at the time. Even after everything, after 24 years of mismanagement and scandal, Snyder sold for 7.5 times what he paid. That tells you everything about what kind of asset this is. There's also the question of expansion. The NFL currently has 32 teams. There has been serious discussion inside the league about expanding to 34 or 36 franchises, with Las Vegas, London, and potentially a second team in Los Angeles or St. Louis being floated as candidates. A new expansion franchise fee goes directly to the existing 32 owners as a distribution payment. When the league expanded from 30 to 31 teams in 1919, existing owners split a $530 million expansion fee. The NFL growing is directly profitable for the people who are already in the club. So let's pull it together. What do you actually make if you do this right? Scenario 1. You buy a mid-market franchise today for $3.5 billion. Annual operating profit, $12 million. Payback from cash flow alone, roughly 29 years. That sounds terrible until you realize the franchise will likely be worth $7 to $9 billion in 15 years based on historical appreciation rates. You don't need the cash flow. The asset itself is the return. Scenario 2. You buy the Cowboys, $10 billion today. Annual operating profit, probably $300 to $400 million. Payback from cash flow, 25 to 30 years. But in 20 years, a $10 billion asset at consistent NFL growth rates could be worth $30 billion or more. Jerry Jones paid $140 million. His sons will inherit something worth more than most sovereign wealth funds. The NFL has had exactly one franchise sale that didn't result in massive profit for the seller, and that was in 1988. If there's one thing to understand about this business, it's that the football is a distraction. The actual product is the media rights. The actual business model is controlled scarcity. There are 32 franchises, and there will never be 33 unless the league decides there will be. You can't start a competing league. You can't replicate the product. The NFL is not a sports organization. It's a cartel with a very good halftime show. And if you ever get approved, survive the vote, write the check, and take your seat in that ownership box. Just remember the most important rule of American sports. You're not buying a team. You're buying a seat at the most exclusive table in the country. The football is just what they put on the field to justify the price of admission.